Hey guys, in this week's podcast, we're going to talk with Michelle Qureshi, which is a fingerstyle guitar player from Indianapolis, Indiana. And we're going to have a good discussion about her music, her journey through music, and just all the fun things that she does. So, hey Michelle, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great. Nathan, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm fine. Just put the kids to bed and, all is right with the world as of right now.
Yeah, at this moment, it's a snapshot for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, so you're from Indianapolis, right?
Yeah, we've been living here almost 20 years now. Yeah.
Oh, cool. And where were you at? Where were you at before?
Well, I was a lot of places, but I'm originally from Northwest Indiana, kind of just outside of Chicago. That's where I was born and raised. Yeah, so spent a lot more time all around as kind of a musician and nomad. But once I got married and we had our daughter, we've been here, and it's kind of strange for me to be in one place like this.
Right. So this is interesting because I didn't know this about you, but speak about your nomad life, if you will. What kind of stuff were you doing with your music and traveling around?
Well, I think it was because initially when I started studying at college, it wasn't for music. So that took a little bit of time to be figure out that actually I want to change my major and go to music school. And my first thought was I wasn't trained classically. So I was like, well, how am I going to learn this? So it was quite a while ago, and I found a school that was good at teaching guitar for it was all kinds of musicians, jazz and popular and in all kinds of instruments, and it was Berkeley up in Boston.
Yeah.
It was kind of I know it's a very slick school now, but then it was not quite that. And it was a pretty kind of a strange experience, interesting in terms of the musicians I met, but as far as trying to get a foundation and a music career started, studying there was not going to happen. So, then I thought about studying the music schools in Europe and many other schools there were basically free. So I thought, well, maybe I'm going to learn in a summer school, learn German and go study in Vienna, the music school or the institute there for music. And my German didn't get that far.
Right.
And while I was there, I got notification of a scholarship for a music school here. And so that's where I shifted. I came back here and then started this whole foundation of classical guitar studies and formal education, and so that's how that was. Yeah.
No, that's cool.
So that started, that was the initial nomad part of it, just like switching schools up. And right before finishing that school up in Milwaukee, the school itself closed.
Oh, wow.
And to get my degrees, I followed my my guitar teacher there, who John Holmquist was the chair there. And then he was taken in at the Cleveland Institute of Music as the guitar chair there, and I stayed and then got my bachelor's that next year and stayed for the master's degree, and then I was set to study and get a PhD at university in the South. And I know here in the South, but I wasn't familiar with the South, and I went down after I agreed on this line of study and to be, internship and whatnot there, as went down to meet the school, the dean there, the head of the music department there. And as I was driving out of town, I went to what was then there a phone booth, and I just called them and I said, I'm not coming. I'm just not coming.
Oh, wow.
And it was an intuitive decision. And it made sense for what lied ahead in my life, which was some unforeseen and kind of tougher things. But I just wasn't meant to keep going to school.
Yeah. Well, University of the South, is that Swanee?
No.
Okay.
I was going to leave the name of the school out. I mean, it's a really a highly respected institution, but it was just like there were just things that were ahead in my path that didn't involve doing that. And in retrospect, I just couldn't have done that quite the way it should have been done. So that meant instead of having some kind of academically secure classical guitar kind of study, I would just kind of go in my own way and different places on the East Coast, teaching different places, and trying to do the gigging, the concerts, stuff like that. But in fact, I actually took a kind of a decades long break from it all until after I got married, had my daughter. When she started in school, that's where I really started releasing albums, writing music, and having a home studio. So
no, that's cool. Well, it seems like, and this is a phrase I've came up with over the years, but it goes, confidence is gained through experience. And you don't have to have that experience in a 4-year degree necessarily, right? You can get that experience in all kinds of forms and facets, and wherever that path takes you, so that's fine.
Yeah, right. And it's all the richer for that. And like you say, you don't really know what you gain just from experience and things that can't be taught to you. And like, I think part of that stuff is what kind of brought me this to be the kind of a unique guitar player I am, all those classical studies, but no real launch of a classical guitarist career because I had to go a different way. But now coming into this in the last bunch of years, using all those skills as a classical guitarist, but bringing them to this fingerstyle thing, which is always evolving. I know there's like a lot of percussive kind of playing on the guitar. There's a lot of still very beautiful melodic stuff, and what I do is just a variety of stuff. But with the guitar, and what I've been focused on lately is just really, really as a solo instrument. I mean, like trying to sculpt from just this one guitar so many layers of sound, and almost an ambient guitar kind of thing on a solo instrument. So
yeah, for what I've checked out on Spotify and other places where your music is available, I mean, it's definitely, I would call it like atmospheric, ambient, atmospheric.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's still definitely guitar centric, but it has other elements in there. So kind of talk about, how do you choose the type of production for your albums?
Right. Well, I think once I set up like my home studio that was fairly modest, and because you can set up I think I had like a Mac Mini and then a little M Audio keyboard, and just the potential for doing layered sounds and textures with recording, and then on top of that improvising guitar parts. It was just kind of like what was coming out was really kind of meditative and relaxing music. And I was also just kind of starting to get into yoga, and my friends were like, oh, this would be beautiful in the studio. And so I used to bring my music and play it live, even ongoing, well, except for this period of time, COVID time. There's no gigs, but so that kind of, those qualities of relaxation and very ethereal moods that the music can create. I think I was just getting feedback from people like how helpful it was listening wise, and how calm and peaceful. Mm-hmm. And I knew I was feeling calm and peaceful making the music. So it just kind of each one kind of like each album, like starting with that very first one, which is very, very synthesizer oriented and not much guitar at all, and some samples and different things like that. That was Of Light, which I released in 2012, and it's just been this process of like exploring this kind of sound and that kind of sound, and for every album out there, there's a dozen more on my hard drive, just kind of looking at more possibilities, and it's just so cool to work with sound the way that we can. And there's also that aspect of when I'm playing or improvising, it's just something just coming through me. It's not that labor of hunched over a score and writing out the notes, and it's torturous, and that rarely happens. It's just you get in a flow, you get in a mindset, and you just try not to get in the way of that production, as you say. And I've learned tons. I mean, the technology has changed a lot. I don't know how much the aesthetic has.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You never went the route of like audio tape or anything like that, right? You just always did digital.
Well, yeah, because when I was in music school, the digital was just kind of happening. The first music school, I mean, we had literally that kind of an Ampex that was like way taller than I was, and the big 2-inch tape, and the patch bay, with all the where you really plugged in the oscillators, and it was really wild. I mean, I would love to see something like that. I mean, I know you can buy these things these days, but yeah, that was my first tinkling around with kind of things like that. And I remember once I got to the school in Cleveland, our audio, I kind of did a minor in audio engineering, but almost as far as technology, almost none of that is relevant to when I came to do it at home. This equipment wasn't there. We would have to splice the tape with a razor blade to make edits, and I was horrible at that. It's just kind of yeah. So it's just like the relevance of certain things. The only thing that remains is that you want to keep improving your ears, and if you can, just keep in the service of your creative ideas. I never want technology to be the end result of what I'm doing.
Right. Well, this is a good example of. I recently listened to a podcast from a guy named Joe Gilder. He runs Home Studio Corner here in Franklin, Tennessee. We went to MTSU together and was in NSAI, National Songwriting Association International. So we've known each other for like 20 years or so now. And really cool guy. But anyway, his recent podcast, he talked about musical sketchbooks. And he was talking about how he's gotten into drawing, but he's also using the same idea of like keeping a notebook or like a journal, like almost keeping a musical journal, to where you don't necessarily have to start and finish a song all in one sitting. You can just kind of sit down, especially when they're in a world of home studio, setups where you just always have the mic set up. You got the interface right there. You just turn it on, press record, and just like you said, you can almost be in like improvise mode, and just kind of get some sketches down musically, and then you can always come back to it like 6 months, a year later. Now that you have all these ideas, you can kind of pull from the different ideas and make an album out of that. Do you find yourself doing stuff like that ever?
Well, I do find that I like to sit with a piece and see what happens over time. A lot of times I'm just really critical in the moment, like, and I come back to it and I think, who wrote this? When did this happen? And, unfortunately, there are a lot of times they're unfinished, or they're just more than I can have time to complete. But I do like to, I would call it like keep these seeds of ideas for the projects I do that are like multi-tracked. And then, yeah, you're right. You can revisit, and as far as keeping those ideas and those moments together for solo guitar stuff, I constantly, just grab my phone and run a little video. Hope that I remember to show myself where the capo was, where the what the tuning was. I've really had quite a mess with some of that, and that's one of my things I've been trying to work on. And while we're kind of in this lockdown COVID, is writing the scores out for a lot of the music. Yeah,
No, that's good.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I find myself these days, I do so much YouTube stuff that I'm always in like video mode. Me as a musician, I really don't get to write a whole lot like I used to. Like, I say used to, like this was like 10, 15 years ago. I still have a tune that I probably wrote 15 or more years ago that I still haven't fully recorded yet. Like, I want to get a violin player on it and maybe a cello, which I have players like I can call on to do this. It's just like, all right, Nathan, you got to just schedule it and just make it happen. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. But I do have a desire to put out more music, especially with like DistroKid, CD Baby. They just make it so easy to just release as many songs as you want within a year, and it's just out there. You don't have to do a record label, you don't have to do all that kind of stuff. It's just like, all right, you can literally write a song and release it the same day and have it be up on Spotify in like a few days.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
Right. Well, that is what's happening. I mean, you do see that, but then you kind of miss that window where it can be important to look at it like from over time at different angles, keep coming back. Like, is this exactly how you want it? But then you kind of go into that murky area of perfectionism too. And that's why it's been like hard to release sometimes. But you have to recognize that it's a process, but you still want to always make sure what you put out there is like something that needs to be heard, not just can be heard.
Oh, yes. Yeah. You don't want to just put out anything. It's like, oh, I recorded a little ditty in 5 minutes and it's the greatest thing ever and I'm just going to release it. It's like, well, it's probably not going to be the best.
Right. Yeah. But you are encouraged to do that though, because of like the Spotify editorial playlists and, getting in, working the way they want you to keep constantly, the shelf life. And the thing about the kind of music, that you could call, new age, instrumental, ambient, it doesn't really have a shelf life, which is a good thing for us. But,
right. So how do you, let's talk about this. How do you approach releasing a song or an album? Like, how do you know when you're ready to release something?
Well, it's definitely been a different sense of ready every time I do it, because it's the first couple I release, because it's like, oh, this is nice. Oh, I like this. I like this. Did I know what I was doing? Not really. Did I think Bandcamp was great? Yeah, because, you just get it up there, and if you change your mind on something, you could, and blah, blah, blah. But then, once I had it out I did the first two on CD Baby, and I also put them, did their whole disc makers thing. So I thought I need the CD to, bring to the yoga studios when I play there or to the gigs when I played them. And, over time, I was like, I don't want, most of people don't know what these CDs even are anymore. So that, so those parameters changed. My music expectations changed from album to album. The direction of it changes with each album. So I think, long story short, is each one is just a snapshot of where you're at and the decisions you made at that time, and being kind of isolated a bit as a soloist here and being your own producer and all these things. It seems cool because everybody's like, oh, DIY musician and stuff. But I've come to be a bit wiser about how important it is to have other ears, other influence, and, other information, really, even if it just means sitting down and listening to a track with someone else physically in the space with you, you hear it differently. So.
Oh yeah, I've had that exact experience before, and this is almost to my own shame because it's not. I guess you could call it egotistical. I mean, I think most musicians are just a little bit egotistical. It's like, they want to be able to do it all themselves, right? And that was me for the longest time. If you go back and listen to, some of my work I did, 10 years ago or whatever, I was playing in an original band called Feedback Revival, and you can, all the music is out there on Spotify and YouTube and iTunes and all that stuff. And I had to record it myself. I had to mix it myself. And it wasn't necessarily the best result because of that. Because of my experience level. And, so if you're out there, listening on the interwebs to this interview, either now or, anytime in the future, and you feel like you have to do it all yourself. It's like, I'm here to tell you, and maybe you would say this as well, Michelle. It's like, if you're not experienced, or it's taking you months to finish a mix because you're just not ever happy with it, well, maybe you're just not very good at mixing, and you need to have somebody else do it, right? Or just like you said, having another ear for production is like, well, what if you did this right here, Michelle? Like maybe it would be, a lot better. You could finish it, in a more timely manner because you're not always second guessing yourself and doing all that stuff. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now going back and listening to those albums I recorded and mixed, I mean, they turned out good, but they definitely could have been a lot better. But like you said, it was almost like a snapshot in time. It's like, and now if I go back and listen to those songs again, they're really not that bad. I mean, they have a vibe to them, We recorded the drums in the garage, like literally in the garage, and stuck a microphone up in the stairwell to get that, really splatty ambient kind of sound. And it was just, it has a vibe to it, but is it like, $1 million sound that was done at like Capitol Records? No, it's not even close. But I feel like I am.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah, I feel like I am where I am today because I did go through those times, like just being unsure and not really knowing how to mix, not really knowing, like how many microphones should I put on the amplifier? Let's put 5 mics on the amp. It's like, no, you just need one. Just get one mic, get a good position, and just play the part. No,
that is good advice, and that is something to be considered. But you're also right. Like you go back, and maybe things weren't technically the best, but there's also always an energy present, or as you say, like the vibe, and you capture something right there, and people also respond and feel and know that exists too, So, but I do hound myself about the technical sometimes, and I think the reason I was so much a DIY is just the money,
Right.
I just didn't have anything to invest in what I did beyond what I would make, and whatever you make, you put back in your music, and there's not a lot to flash around with stuff. So that's what really drove most of doing all, being the marketer, being the producer, being the engineer at home, and writing the stuff. I mean, the writing was always the easiest part. But I just also approached the like the mixing. I think that's been my hardest thing is because it's so trial and error for me. And then, what you're mixing down with, is it your speakers? Is it your room? Is it your headphones? Then you go listen in the car. And it always seemed like the most random thing in the world.
Yeah.
How do I use this EQ?
You kind of start chasing your own tail a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the different setups you've had over the years. I mean, you were telling me before you have an Apogee Duet. Is that correct?
Yeah. I don't even remember what preceded that, because this one has been so good and steady. It's just that Duet, and since I'm a soloist, I really don't need more than whether it's stereo microphones or miking other acoustic instruments here, or even a direct in. That's been the simple setup, really. Only in the past year did I actually get a nice complete Native Instruments keyboard, an 88 key with.
Oh yeah,
that's beautiful, because I've had the software, the complete, for a few years, and a couple other libraries they're just really beautiful to work with. You can really, as much as I can get lost just sitting in the back porch with my guitar and nothing else, I can get lost in these sounds that you can create with all this keyboard. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now remind me, the complete package, I mean, that has strings and like horns and like sound
but it also has
and
tons of Massive is one of the synths in there.
Okay.
Absinthe is one. I mean, just incredible, beautiful sounds with all kinds of manipulation you can do with the sound. You don't want just a canned sound,
right?
But sometimes you're tempted because some of them are so perfect.
Right.
Before that, I even had you probably know what's the isotope, mostly for ozone and stuff. But I originally got this beautiful virtual instrument called Iris that they came out with. I think that does have really neat sounds, and it was one of the early ones where you could just drag your own sample in and have it manipulated by the parameters you set up in its engine. And so that's another one that I liked a lot. And then of course, Spitfire, I would, every time they had they run a little charity thing where you can go into Spitfire Labs and get this stuff, for $5 or something. So I have a small little collection of that stuff, as well.
No, that's fine.
And then I work in Logic, and that has a lot of beautiful stuff just in it.
It really does. I mean, Logic
Yeah.
is kind of a complete package, because you can not only record and do all the editing and whatever, but it does have all the virtual instruments already built in to the program, which is really cool. And I think that's why a lot of people start off with GarageBand, because it's really kind of idiot proof almost, if you want to say that. And then all the drum loops that it has built in. I mean GarageBand and Logic pretty much have the same sounds. Logic is just more,
they have stepped up. But I always found I could not, especially on the phone version of GarageBand, it just drives me crazy because it is so simple. It's hard for me,
Yeah.
So I have maybe a couple pieces on my album Margalla Hills. One of my most streamed one called Fading Faces, which is just these guitar loops. That was GarageBand.
Oh,
and
cool.
it has more streams than most of my pieces.
Yeah.
But I haven't used it for, once I got Logic, I didn't look back,
Oh yeah.
I
Well, it's
liked it
just a matter of, it's simple to use, using GarageBand, but it's limiting as far as the editing goes. And I feel like if you're working on a computer, I mean, the editing is really the main reason why you use a computer to record, because it's so easy to copy and paste and splice the audio and stretch the audio if you need to, and just manipulate it in any way you want. All with Total Recall. You can do all this stuff and then come back to it even like a year later and just pick right up and start messing with it some more. So,
right.
that's why I like. What kind of microphones do you use, Michelle?
I got for right before I did the album, Short Stories, which is just acoustic guitar and some nylon string, but just solo guitar stuff, a couple layered. I got some SE 8s. If you're familiar with that, I got a stereo pair of mics because I thought, I saw somebody's picture where they had like the stereo bar and pointed on the guitar. Then I found out, that almost never works for a good sound to do it like that. So I actually don't use the stereo bar, but I use those mics and point one right about the around the 12th fret or so to where the guitar is meeting at the neck there. And then the other one in a good spot at the body of the guitar, kind of to my right side. And so they definitely have to be on different mic stands, and kind of zero in on that sound.
Right.
But there was a variety of, when you listen to my, the mostly guitar ones, Margalla Hills, Sage, and Short Stories, and Guitar Sojourner. Guitar Sojourner was actually I released it in 2019, but it was actually a lot that was recorded like in 2013 or 14 with one microphone. Cool. And when I listened back, I said, "Oh, this guy has a retro vibe, a retro sound." It's because I didn't even have a stereo recording for it,
Right.
But it came out kind of funny, interesting. But I don't have any set or definite mic placement or setup. It's only for that song, and the next song might be set up in a different way,
Right. How do you feel about like stereo setups? Do you feel like, are you using it for the width? Like, do you hard pan the different channels, or do you just use them to kind of help fill in the sounds between the bass and the treble and the sound hole and the neck? How do you approach the stereo versus mono?
Well, the stereo approach now for me, after a wonderful conversation with Tom Eaton, who is going to be the mastering engineer for the album I'm going to do with Mindstream. He just, for the first time, he told me pan one right, pan one left. I didn't know that, in the recording. And it was like, wow, that's really, so now I can get a better in my own studio sound, just for making my demos in that way. And I do like that sound,
Right.
But prior to that, I didn't know how that was used. I would record both pretty much in the middle of the channel, and then I would put some, a little bit of delay, a little bit of stereo imaging on, send them out to buses like that.
Okay,
So, yeah. And in fact, before I got the stereo pair, most were on the Rode NT1000 mic, which I think is a nice mic.
Yeah. Really
nice for the money, and any vocals that I've done, I'll still use that one. Or on Seventh Wave, I did some recordings with a slotted tongue drum, which is, hard to capture or know how to capture, but I basically had that Rode out there, suspended above it and trying to play, and so a lot to learn.
Yeah, I've definitely bought and sold a lot of mics over the years. And I've just settled on Rode microphones. Like right now, I'm talking into NT2A, which is just I had the NT2000, which is really cool. But I think the NT2A is just as good, but it just has the switches instead of the variable knobs on it. And in the recording room on the opposite side of the glass here, I just got a new tube mic from Rode. It's the NTK, which I've recorded Lance Allen on that mic for a few songs now. And it sounds rich and sounds really good. I'm still not quite sure about the tube aspect of it. It's like, do I really hear the difference? I don't know. If you spend the money, I guess your ears kind of they hear what they want to hear because you spent
They
the
want to
money.
hear it, right?
It's like, I think it sounds really good. I just spent how much on that? And that's the great thing about it, though, is like Rode microphones are not very expensive at all, and they sound great.
And they're good. Yeah.
They're really
That's,
good.
I mean, that's kind of the principle of my studio,
Yeah.
stuff that sounds good, but it's not about any kind of flash.
And speaking of stereo mics, I have the Rode NT4, which is a dual capsule. It already has the XY pattern already set. So you don't have to use you don't have to use a stereo bar or anything. And this is also battery powered as well. So if you're out in the field and you want to record, I don't know, whatever out wherever you're at, you don't have to have 48 volt phantom power to use it. You can just put a battery in.
You got a battery, right? Yeah.
And flip the switch, and now you're
cool.
good. So, pretty much all Rode mics for everything I do here. I have some drum mics for the rare occasion that I actually record acoustic drums nowadays. But yeah, large diaphragm, condenser mics, especially like acoustic guitar. I'll just put it like maybe 12th fret, 14th fret area, and just be like, all right, don't mess up. I'm pressing record.
Right.
But there's a certain point where you just kind of have to get the technical aspect out of the way. Like you have to know just enough to make sure it's going to sound good. But at that point, it just comes down to performance, and like you said, the vibe and the feel, and just capturing that moment, and just letting the guitar speak for itself. So, what microphone are you talking to right now?
One I never use. It's a Bluebird. The blue microphones.
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah. I'm not really sure what to use it for, but I had it on a really tiny, the kind of microphone stand for like a drum, like that you would put it on the floor, that little stand, but it works fine for my desk. So I just pulled that out and plugged it in. Yeah. So
does that have the ability to do multiple patterns, or is it just cardioid?
It's just cardioid. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a fancy. I think it was probably maybe 200 something. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, price at that point really doesn't matter. I mean, any condenser you get nowadays are going to be pretty good quality.
Yeah, that's true.
One suggestion, I mean, you might have fun playing around with this. Once you do your stereo setup on your on the close mic guitar, maybe take that blue mic and just maybe face it away from you, like maybe toward a wall or something, and use that mic later in the production to add your reverb and all that stuff, so you get the natural ambience of the room maybe, and not so much of the close mics. It might be a cool addition
So you mean
to the sound.
just use one close and then use this as a far?
No, I'm
Because
saying
remember, I only
if
have
you,
two inputs.
Oh yeah, well, okay. If you only have if you only have two inputs, then use
You
one
don't get to do
close
that.
and one far, and then just see.
Yeah.
And then pan those hard left and right, because that way you got close on the left and far on the right, and blend them together, and I don't know, you just experiment and see what kind of sounds you can come up with. There's really no right or wrong way of doing it.
Yeah, I know. And I guess it's kind of fun too not to have a regular way of doing it all the time, because you're always going to come up with something interesting, hopefully,
Right.
But speaking also to another comment about these home studios and the way it makes things different when you come to work on a recording, I'm usually working on a couple records at a time. One might be ambient with electric guitar, one might be just this acoustic guitar. That's how it's been going, and doing them at home, but it's also over a stretch of time.
Right.
That could be, could be a few months, like, I need to go in and record this, or I need to, when I get time, I'm going to do that. And so when this opportunity to sign with this new label in January, the Mindstream label.
Yeah.
And part of our thing was to take I have like 26 new solo pieces ready for this album. And Mindstream what was in the cards for May before pre-COVID thing was flying me out to Imaginary Road Studios, where Will Ackerman would produce the album for me, and Tom Eaton would be the mastering engineer. And I was like, this was like a dream come true. Just be out there for a week. I've never like done an album that and everything gets played and recorded in, over 4 days, and then boom, you got the record. That was going to be such a interesting experience, and with top-notch work like that, right? With these artists like that. So that's on hold, unfortunately, but it'll happen. It's like everybody else's dream right now is a little bit deferred. So
we'll talk about maybe talk about that process a little bit of how in this situation would a label help you, and also how did they approach you and be like, hey Michelle, we like your work, let's work together, we're going to take half your profits. I mean, what does that look like for you?
Well, so up until 2016, like 2012 to 2016, I was, just self-releasing, made my own publishing was my name, Music as Metaphor. And that was my umbrella for all the like little businessy side of things that I would do. And then I was looking, I think, in around other avenues for, how to get my music out to a larger audience, right? We're always doing that. So there was a company or a label that I was seeking for promo, but then after they heard my material, they asked me, did I want to be on this label? It was called Heart Dance Records, and mostly new age stuff. So I did. I decided to go with that label, and that kind of brought me into this whole kind of circle of people that I didn't know existed, like all these people who do this new age and ambient, and like a really big network of musicians to get to know and to maybe collaborate with and to learn from. And I did 3 albums with Heart Dance, and I mostly just did new age. I did Scattering Stars, Seventh Wave, and then while I was working on Silver Chord, which was the last one I released with them, I was also wanting to do my own projects because I'm really prolific. So I started releasing at the same time some stuff on my own, some stuff with them. 2019, I was no longer, after Silver Chord, I was not releasing anything. With Heart Dance, I wasn't with that label anymore. And a friend that I had met in this bigger network of artists announced that he was now head of A&R for Real Music with a new label launch called Mindstream. And when I congratulated him, he said we should talk, and that led to some really, really positive things for me. And
that's cool.
Yeah. So, and then I sent the demo of what I'd been working on, and that's what we planned on me, along with some more material, because I think that was about 24 minutes, and then from like December till January, I wrote an additional 24 minutes, I think, of music, and it's really kind of focusing on just solo guitar. And it's really, really special music. So I'm just so eager to get that, realized and meet and be in Will Ackerman's studio and work with Tom Eaton and then having like Michael Whalen with Mindstream handling this. I mean, it's all just gonna be fantastic when it can happen.
That's really cool. So what are they going to, once all the music is done and released, like what are they going to do for you in the back end?
I think a label like this has a really big reach. indies, it's great being indie, but there are barriers that that you're just not going to get past. And having kind of like a label that is very conscientious, very much about highest quality music out there. I just can't think that that's not going to be a great thing.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah.
I think it comes back to whether you want to call it a label or not. I mean, if you're independent out there, or you're just a guy or girl in your home studio, I think what I'm hearing from you is great having a team of people around your music that can help with marketing, that can help with all like all the
producing,
aspects.
producing and mastering.
All that.
I think that's where I need to be now, because all the stuff before brought me to this point, and I'm ready for that, and I really want to, present in the best light I can what I can do,
Right.
Yeah.
And it kind of frees you up to kind of play to your strengths, right? And not to say, what I've heard your music, and it sounds good. I mean, you do well with the mixing and all that stuff. But if you just have to go in and play and then let someone else take care of all the other stuff, it really comes down to delegation. And you can think of it like a workforce, like your boss or your team leader or something. It's like, who is going to be there to delegate out the different things that need to be done, so that way you're more efficient, and that's really what it comes down to for me. It's like, if you're just playing, but you don't have to worry about all the other stuff, how much more free are you going to be to create your next batch of songs while they're, off doing their thing with the current batch of songs? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Oh, you can't imagine how excited I would be for that moment where I'm really just brought in to play my instrument. I just get like silly over thinking about it, because it's just never been something I've been allowed to do. And so it's just I wish it happened in May. We all wish something would have happened already, but I just can't wait for it to happen. Because I think just that, to be able just to totally have every fiber of me invested in that sound I'm creating at that moment, I think is going to be super, super special.
No, that's great. I don't want to put words into anybody's mouth, but I think that's why Lance just comes to me. One, he lives literally like 5 minutes from the house. And like, we live in the same town. Like, he just lives like just right down the road. So he's like, hey, I need to record a part for this collaboration, or I need to do this or that. And he has Reaper, he has GarageBand, he has whatever to record. He could record himself, but I think he likes just coming in, sitting down, putting on the headphones and just playing, and I'm over here just pushing all the buttons and making everything happen. So it makes it easier for him not to worry about the production side of things, and just like, I'm gonna go in and play, let someone else take care of the rest, and just work on the album art and release it, and he's done. So Now, I can't remember. I mean, there's a lot of people in the guitar community, especially online, like on Facebook and all that stuff. So talk about your experience and maybe the camaraderie that we find in some of these Facebook groups. Because I know there's Acoustic Guitar Cafe, right, which is what Lance started. And there's a bunch of other groups. What other groups are you a part of that you kind of get inspiration being in?
I just... To mention about Acoustic Guitar Cafe, because we were talking about Lance, and I met Lance briefly at one of the NAMM shows, summer NAMM shows, because a common musician friend of ours, Ed Basil, who's down there with you, and he might be in Franklin actually, but he runs this kind of thing called the River of Calm. You might have heard Lance talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've played live down there for that. This during the COVID times, I played one of the virtual concerts for them. But anyways, he introduced me to Lance. He said, "Hey, you're both, my River of Calm artists." So anyways, we did meet down there, and then we friended on Facebook. And then I saw this playlist called Acoustic Guitar Cafe, and I went through the thing at the time, and I just put, just kind of I didn't mean to be like snarky about it or anything, but I put a comment in there. I like it'd be a little bit nice to see some, X chromosome in there. You've got all this, all these male players, totally. And he was like, oh yeah, send me a track kind of thing. And then suddenly I got on the Acoustic Guitar Cafe, and that became a Facebook group as well. And it was great. Like that was my point of meeting a lot of guitarists, a whole lot of guitars, and the guitars beyond. Or the groups beyond that, like Fingerstyle Hub has been a nice one that I don't know if you know Tommy Lewis from the UK.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with him.
Yeah, he plays lots of instruments. Really, really sweet person, and organized also over this pandemic time. Organized Fingerstyle Hub concert with his friend John. I don't exactly have John's last name, but then there's guitar players of Facebook. There's guitars around the world, and then of course for me, I always put my videos in the Stonebridge Furch guitar ones, and Furk guitar official owners, and now. Since I think in November I got a harp guitar from with Timberline, and there's various really groups for that. Yeah, that's a cool instrument. So I haven't spent as much time as I'd like with it. I'd really like to just have more time with it. I finally got a strap that I can play more comfortably. That was kind of one of the things. It's heavy, so I can't. They are heavy, and I can't hold them for forever. Like, you can forget you have a guitar on, but you can't forget that you're holding a harp guitar.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah. So, but that's been, the camaraderie, and then we make these guitar Spotify playlists and share each other's music a lot. And it's been good. I wish there were more opportunities for some face-to-face. I know there was a festival here in I think Nashville, Indiana. They had a fingerstyle thing, and Lance came up and played. And Daryl Sean, I believe, who does a really nice new guitar releases Spotify thing. He came out to play for it, and but I didn't go down to it. I was just sitting here in my studio. I forget what I was working on, and I was thinking, maybe I should go down and play this. So I'm sure it's not going to happen.
Right?
Just like I won't be meeting anyone at Summer NAMM either.
Yeah. Maybe next year.
I hope so.
I know. Me too.
So. Yeah.
Me too. Well, what is your process for getting on playlists on Spotify, other than just being in the groups and having the people like, oh, hey, you just got a new release, I'll put it on my playlist and your playlist and whatever else. It's like, do you reach out to anybody else, or how do you find different playlists to be on?
Yeah, I know. That's a big part of people's time, I gather, from some of the Spotify groups that I'm in, and people are really good about thinking of each other and putting them on the playlists or is putting something out and saying, hey, I'm creating this, looking for music of this vibe, but I'm not real active with that. I find it like that it can be, I don't know, I'd just rather spend my time making it and hope it gets heard. And I'm grateful for, the people who listen to the playlists I make. I'm grateful for the people who put my music on playlists. Probably one of the top streaming ones for me, a playlist. It's like I don't even know the person. I can't even find them to say thanks for putting this track on there because I don't know who they are. So it's not always like your buddy system or somebody I've had one, and it was last May. I had one Spotify editorial thing, and you're grateful for that. But as I reminded a guitar player friend of mine who just got on that maybe 2 weeks ago, it's the like weekly new releases one, and you get really high about it because you think, oh, this is great. But I reminded him there's you will come off that playlist and you will see everything deflate again. So it's a little bit like it's counterproductive to follow that too much for my personality.
Right.
If I open the Spotify for artists and I see a number going up and then I see it start dropping, that's not my comfort level. I don't think we really have that much control over it. I'm not going to pay for ads so that I can get a little bit of streaming money that will never even pay for those ads.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. But people are great who have that kind of mind and want to spend that time on it, making Google spreadsheets and figuring out this and understanding how to do the ads. But, I'd rather just pour the time I have back directly into just, upping my skills with the music directly.
So it may be almost better for you, and you may do this, but like maybe you're just on your Instagram or your Facebook and you just put a link to your profile, like on Spotify or something.
Yeah,
and people will go on there.
Sometimes.
Yeah, they'll go on there and they'll see the top 5 songs. They'll listen to those and they'll go check out some other albums. And so as long as you just point them to a general direction of like, hey, this is where my stuff is, go check it out. That's probably the best, more efficient way of doing it versus seeking out like these playlist curators and hounding them all day. But, oh, please put me on your playlist. It's like, all right, well, I'm not doing much guitar playing at this point because I'm just hounding people all day, Yeah. I know, but that worked for Lance. He says he worked his butt off doing that. Right.
But there's other things I want to work my butt off doing, and I do. So, but it's at the end of the day, you can't let those numbers distort anything about your artistry, really.
Right.
Popularity maybe, but not artistry,
Right. It's definitely a fleeting cause sometimes, I feel like. Especially with the YouTube stuff that I do. I pretty much took a break the month of May. I did a few live streams just to say I put some content out there, but I really didn't do a whole lot of premeditated, video making. Just because I needed a break. It's just like,
well, we all do.
Man, it's rough. And I constantly, like every month, I average around 250 or so subscribers to my YouTube channel, which is great.
That's great.
But the income from that, getting 50,000 views, I average around $100 a month. So it's not like I can't quit my day job anytime soon. Just doing YouTube.
Right.
But I think, with music or video creation or anything artistic, you kind of just have to have a goal or maybe set some guidelines for yourself. It's like, all right, I'm going to try and create during this season and then release that and then create some more, then release that instead of just constantly pushing and burning yourself out almost.
It's you gotta find a balance. You have to know that your balance is different from someone else's. Your whole everything is different from someone else's, but learn what you can from other people. And like you said early on, don't be shy of seeking out help and team members, because I've waited this many years before I've done any, even done that. And I think it's only going to be really a beneficial thing.
I'm excited for you. I think it's going to be really cool.
Thanks. Yeah. I will definitely love to share that with you when that happens.
And where's that label in the studio at? Where are they located?
LA, I believe, is Mindstream's base.
Okay.
Michael is based in New York City.
Oh, wow.
And then Will's studio is in Vermont.
Oh, cool. Never been up to that part of the country, but one day it will happen. It's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a really pretty area. Yeah, well, different than where we are.
Oh, yeah. Is Indianapolis weather kind of like Nashville weather, or?
It's a little less hot and maybe a little more, and definitely a little more cold. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because you're more north, but probably not as much humidity as what Tennessee gets, right?
Right, just not as humid, but we'll get more. I mean, we get these storms, we do get tornadoes, stuff like that. We've had some issues like that, but but it's decent. It's okay. I guess we're not. I mean, that's speaking of things that have changed over the pandemic. The Indy 500 first time in forever practically did not happen. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to do it. I think they're doing it July 4th. Possibly.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, Michelle, I think we've had a great discussion about all things music and the creation side and the technical side and all that. And I really appreciate your time and willingness to come on and chat with me.
Yeah. I'm glad we were able to do this, and we did have a quick hello at NAMM too. I forgot to mention.
That's right. Yeah.
That was just last summer, I believe.
It was. Yeah. It was this past summer.
Yeah, about a year ago. Yeah. So it's always great to actually, I mean, virtual things are wonderful, but when you actually meet someone face to face, it's a different thing. So I'm glad we had that chance, however brief it was.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, you have an excellent rest of your night, Michelle, and we will talk again very soon.
Okay, thanks so much. Take care.
All right.